I love Delhi. I was born there, and I believe I had the best of city life. The humdrums of different culture at my school, and learning Kathak at 5, the South Indian dance. I then signed up for Delhi's swim team. And the most carefree days of all was cycling down the road to meet my friends at the park. So how many of you are like me, Delhi lovers? City lovers? Okay, a few in the audience. Great. Then, my daughter Nora was born 7 years ago. I began to wonder if Delhi would live up to its promise for her. With 18 million inhabitants, not to mention the infamous quality of air and the safety challenges women and girls navigate on a daily basis, I became a Delhi skeptic. I still have the privilege to choose. Lakshmi Singh is a family driver. He moved to Delhi from rural Bihar. His promise for the city was the promise to break the cycle of poverty. In rural Bihar, Lakshmi was engaged in subsistence agriculture, producing just enough to feed his family of 5. When he moved to the city for gainful employment and a future for his children, so they could go to schools where the teacher actually showed up. But his choice came out of necessity and at a price. We know living in the city is expensive. The high costs of food. They live in cramped living conditions. 12 square meter room, sharing a bathroom with their neighbors. India's urban population is only 400 million. And no sarcasm there, because India is still living in her villages. 70% of our population is in its villages, 30% dream of the city. 70% of every new jobs come from the city. And in 2030, we will have 62 cities of 1 million population each. Europe today has 45 cities in 3.1 times the land mass. So Indian cities are going to look very, very dense. So of course, over time, we have, let's say, accumulated a housing shortage. And why is Australia there? Because the population of Australia, let's say, is 25 million. This was the number given in 2008. So that's already 10 years from now. And what if I was to tell you that the shortage is 5 times the population of Australia? Because that's what it means in terms of number of people. For every household, an average of 5 people who live there. So there is an urgency to respond. So we might argue about the numbers, and every government and every subsequent government might play that up or play that down. But what that number did was give us a wake-up call. And in that instant of dealing with the housing shortage, the government of India announced a housing for all policy. Fantastic. If everybody could own a home, that is a noble cause. But that might have been a little too ambitious. And I say that because delivering housing as a product, as a standardized product, might have the risk of solving one problem and creating a host of other problems. Let's come back to Milan in the 1970s. That might have recollections of this story. Rapid industrialization, rapid urban growth. Majority of the working poor moved outside and accommodated outside the city. Over time, these periphery neighborhoods, ghetto towns, become known for drugs, violence, and social exclusion. So many urban, mostly sociologists, have documented these struggles. And what one says, the professor of sociology at ETH Zurich, Christian Smith, he says it was the young people protesting. They were protesting against the lack of urban life that cities were constantly offering and constantly breaking. And while each of us in our different continents might have sensed and felt these struggles, Latin America, the most urbanized of them all, Asia, Africa, here in Europe, despite the difference in the context, what Christian Smith is saying these are struggles and demands for centrality, against marginalization and against exclusion. So it should be no surprise to us that the current mayor of Barcelona, Ada Colau, is a housing rights activist. She came into power, she was elected after fighting for rights for thousands that evicted out of their homes after the financial crisis of 2009 and 2010. Housing is emotional. Each of us appreciates the sense of security we get from having a roof over our head. But I am not a planner, nor a sociologist, and in full disclosure, do not want to be the next mayor of Delhi. What got me passionate to solve problems for cities? As a social entrepreneur, I see these opportunities. I see these opportunities to bring innovation that make a sustainable impact. And in starting this, 10 years ago, we came up with a simple mission, which was giving poor options for housing. The first innovation challenge we took up were for the homeless. These are able-bodied men. They moved to Delhi in the season of winter for seasonal work. In our eyes, they are homeless. They choose to live on the streets. And as we tried to engage and interact with them in our design innovation challenge, we attempted to understand two things. Why did they prefer the streets instead of using the government-provided free shelters? On the streets, some of you may know this, they often have to pay $50 for the mattress or the use of a blanket. And here the answer was easier to guess. First, location. The streets are where they work. It's the proximity to work that counts. The mattress owner not only provides them the mattress, he gives services. He gives them a movie night. He stores their documents. And the third, reliability. The reliability of knowing that every winter the services will be there, very unlike the government shelters. And the second question was, but why particularly decide to sleep in the middle of the dividers, in the middle of the road, at the risk of life? And this one would be a tricky one for each of us to guess. That was the simplest way to get rid of the mosquitoes every time the car switched by. So we sourced our inspiration from these ingenious innovations. We co-created and co-designed dormitories that were used by over 100 every night, and a family shelter option. You may be wondering, are these improvised incremental solutions going to make a sustainable impact on poverty? I have to admit, these are hard realities for each of us to accept, and there are no easy answers. For our social startup, it was about creating a portfolio of housing solutions, choices, and each person could opt in depending on their scenarios. And once somebody has been able to get a foot in the door, and in this case, a foot in the city, what are his options for rentals? Unfortunately, neighborhoods such as these, this is in Mangolpuri in the west of Delhi, are considered illegitimate parts of the city. They provide anywhere between 10 to 70% of the stock of low-income housing. I do appreciate and understand that many are called slums and might be inhabitable, but that's not always the case. We have Lakshmi Singh, our driver you met earlier, the fruit cart vendor, the milkman, our office caretaker. They are living in these neighborhoods, and providing the services which sustain the city. Imagine if these neighborhoods would be sent 40 kilometers out. The affordable housing choices of majority of the services being provided in the city are subsidizing our high quality of life. So I had to investigate this, right? So we went to 20 such settlements where 2.6 million people in Delhi are living, and estimated that $1 billion has been invested in this community over 30 years. Now here's the economics training, the opportunity comes up. Unfortunately, not all this funding was affordable or efficient. Most of the money came from informal sources, anything between 30 to 40% of interest rate in a year. This was a debt they were carrying on and passing down generation from generation. But what were the choices? You would say government, right? First responsibility for this. The government might have even given these shelters, the households, a right to live, but incidentally, no right to build, keeping them in the gray area. In that scenario, number two, banks. Which bank would be comfortable in lending with that environment? Number three, community-based organizations, microfinance. As some of you might know, microfinance was growing, and in India is the hub of microfinance. It was growing rapidly, it was very competitive. Private equity had come in, it was ready to expand. But they are typically giving loans between $100 to $200. Try convincing a bank at that stage, a microfinance agency, to go 10 times and take the risk into housing. It would have been too difficult. After much action research work, we were able to work with one champion microfinance agency in designing a pilot. The pilot meant giving funds up to $2,500. It could be to add a room to rent out. It could be to add a floor to accommodate family expansion. Much of the issues are around overcrowding. And 25 families in a conservative pilot for this microfinance institution signed up. They were given the loans at 18% interest rates. And what we have after 8 years is 98% of the loans have been repaid. And I would say most of these are prepaid. Nobody likes to stay in debt. And what this small pilot was able to do, it had a role in influencing a larger pilot, a slightly larger pilot, this time the government of India. National Housing Bank with the Multilateral Finance Agency created a credit facility of $100 million. 20 housing finance companies on a commercial basis signed up for this, providing loans at 13% average interest rate to 13,000 households. Still, just a start. Social innovation and financial inclusion was one opportunity to break an impact on cities. What is next? Resilience. Resilience for low-income neighborhoods that are finding a way to develop bottom-up solutions and inching their way to get centrality in the city. And aren't we lucky that resilience is such a buzzword? The first is, how do we make housing safer in the event of natural disaster? The second, how do we incentivize and train the youth that are moving from villages, most of them in housing, to build safer? The third is, can technology come to rescue and bridge this divide? As you see, there is non-stop opportunity for social innovation. And at heart, I am a city person. Where I draw my inspiration from and optimism is that each of us here have a role to play. Social innovation goes beyond social enterprise. It is a mindset for us. And I do believe that collectively, our actions have the opportunity to inspire, to empower, and disrupt the status quo, making our cities inclusive and resilient. Thank you. Thank you.